$200, and you pretend to love me until dessert." The words left Maya Bennett's mouth just as laughter exploded behind her in the crowded Chicago hotel lobby. She kept her chin high, though her fingers tightened around the strap of her thrift store purse. At 28, Maya was a curvy bakery assistant with warm brown eyes, a sharp memory, and rent overdue by 6 days. Tonight, she wore a navy dress she had altered herself, hoping her cousin's engagement party would pass without another joke about her body or single status. Instead, her aunt had loudly announced that Maya's imaginary boyfriend must be parking somewhere in Canada. The entire family laughed. Maya had smiled until her cheeks hurt, then escaped into the lobby before humiliation could crack her voice. That was when she saw him. He stood near the marble columns in a charcoal suit, 6 feet 3 inches of stillness, while security guards moved around him like nervous satellites. His name, though Maya did not know it yet, was Luca Moretti. To the public, he was a private investor visiting from New York. To men who whispered in locked rooms, he was the hidden Mafia Boss who controlled half the city's underground deals without ever raising his voice. Rich, feared, and emotionally sealed behind years of betrayal, Luca had come to the hotel to identify a traitor inside his organization. He had no patience for parties, romance, or strangers with desperate proposals. Yet Maya's voice made him turn. She immediately regretted speaking, especially when his pale grey eyes settled on her with unsettling calm. "I'm sorry," she said. "I thought you were someone from the acting app." Luca glanced at the crumpled $200 in her hand, then toward the ballroom doors where another burst of laughter carried her name. He noticed the way she squared her shoulders before anyone could see how deeply the ridicule cut. "What exactly would the job require?" he asked. Maya blinked. No one had ever made embarrassment sound like a business negotiation. "One dinner," she said, lowering her voice. "Hold my hand, laugh once or twice, and convince my relatives that somebody chose me." The last words came out quieter than she intended. Something unreadable shifted across Luca's face. He had seen men beg for their lives with less honesty. "And if they disrespect you?" he asked. Maya gave a tired little smile. "Then you pretend not to notice like everyone else." Luca's expression cooled. "I don't pretend not to notice." Before Maya could change her mind, the ballroom doors opened and her cousin Vanessa appeared in a glittering silver gown, flanked by 3 women wearing identical amused smiles. "There you are," Vanessa called. "Did your boyfriend finally arrive, or did he get lost inside your imagination?" Maya's stomach dropped, but Luca stepped beside her before shame could pull her backward. He did not touch her at first. He simply stood close enough that Vanessa's smile faltered. Then he took the $200 from Maya, folded the bills once, and slipped them into his jacket. "Payment accepted," he said. His hand closed around hers, steady and warm, while Maya stared at him in disbelief. Luca faced Vanessa with the calm authority of a man accustomed to rooms obeying him. "You must be the cousin who confuses cruelty with charm." The lobby went silent. Vanessa's cheeks reddened. "And you are?" Luca lifted Maya's hand and pressed a restrained kiss to her knuckles, never breaking eye contact with Vanessa. "The man who chose her," he said. Maya's heart stumbled so hard she nearly forgot the arrangement was fake. Inside the ballroom, chandeliers cast gold light over crystal glasses and judgmental faces. Luca guided Maya forward with one protective hand near her back, never pushing, only offering direction she could refuse. She expected him to vanish after making his point. Instead, he remembered her name after hearing it once, pulled out her chair, and quietly asked whether she preferred sparkling water or iced tea. Across the room, a broad-shouldered man in a black tie froze when he recognized Luca, then reached for his phone beneath the table. Maya never saw the warning message. The warning message reached Luca's head of security before the first course arrived. Someone inside the hotel had recognized him, and the traitor he had come to expose now knew exactly where he was sitting. Luca read the alert beneath the table without changing his expression. Across from him, Maya was trying to ignore Vanessa's friends as they whispered behind crystal glasses, but every cruel glance made her shoulders tighten. Luca placed his phone face down and leaned closer. "Tell me your favorite dessert," he said. Maya blinked. "What? Your favorite dessert? A convincing boyfriend should know." His voice was low enough that the rest of the table could not hear. "Salted caramel cheesecake," she answered cautiously. "But I usually make it myself because restaurants never add enough caramel." Luca nodded as if she had just given him information worth remembering. "And what do you hate?" Maya glanced toward Vanessa. Public humiliation. Luca's eyes cooled, but before he could respond, Vanessa tapped her glass with a spoon. "Since we finally met Maya's mysterious boyfriend, perhaps he can tell us how they met." Every face turned toward them. Maya's pulse jumped. She had planned no story, no shared history, not even a last name. Luca slid his hand over hers beneath the white tablecloth, not possessive, only steady. "She corrected me," he said. Vanessa frowned. "Corrected you about what?" "Everything." A few guests laughed uncertainly, but Luca continued. "I watched a man speak rudely to a hotel employee. Everyone else looked away. Maya stepped between them, defended the employee, and reminded the man that money does not excuse bad manners." Maya stared at him. The story was invented, yet it sounded exactly like something she would do. "I asked her to dinner," Luca finished. "She refused twice." This time the laughter was warm, directed at him rather than her. Maya found herself smiling. 3 times, she added. Luca looked at her, and for the first time that evening, something almost playful touched his face. She enjoys being accurate. Vanessa's fiancé Derek leaned back in his chair. "So what do you do, Luca?" Maya felt Luca's thumb go still against her hand. "Investments," he said. Derek smirked. "Anything we would recognize." Before Luca answered, the hotel manager hurried into the ballroom. His face had gone pale. He whispered to a server, and within seconds, the music stopped. 2 men in dark suits entered through the side doors, scanning the room. Maya assumed they were security until one of them touched the inside of his jacket, and Luca immediately rose. "Stay beside me," he told her. The command was quiet, but every instinct in Maya told her to listen. One of the men moved toward their table. Luca stepped between him and Maya, his body blocking her completely. "Mr. Moretti," the stranger said, forcing a smile. "We did not expect you here." The name changed the room. The manager lowered his eyes. Derek's confidence vanished. At a nearby table, an older businessman stood so quickly that his chair scraped the floor. "Moretti," Vanessa whispered. "As in Moretti, capital?" Luca did not look at her. His attention remained on the stranger. "You were not supposed to expect me," he said. The man's smile disappeared. "There has been a misunderstanding. Then explain it to my security team outside." Luca lifted 2 fingers, and the hotel guards immediately surrounded the stranger. No shouting, no struggle. Just one small gesture, and the entire ballroom obeyed. Maya's mouth went dry. This was not an actor from an app. This was not an ordinary investor. Yet when Luca turned back to her, the danger in his face softened. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "No." She looked around at the terrified guests. "Should I be?" "Not while you are with me." His answer should have frightened her, but the way he checked her hands for trembling made something inside her loosen. No one had ever protected her dignity before asking for her trust. Vanessa finally found her voice. "Maya, you lied to us." Luca turned slowly. "She owes you no explanation." "But she paid you to be here." Vanessa pointed toward his jacket. "I saw the money." Silence spread across the table again. Maya wanted the floor to open beneath her, but Luca removed the 2 folded bills and placed them beside her plate. "The agreement has changed," he said. "Changed how?" Maya asked. He met her eyes. "You hired me for 1 dinner. I am asking for a second." Maya searched his expression for mockery and found none. Before she could answer, a server approached with 2 slices of salted caramel cheesecake. Luca had ordered them without her noticing. "Extra caramel," he said. Maya laughed softly, surprised by how safe the sound felt. Then she noticed the server's hand. It was trembling. A dark stain spread across his cuff, and beneath the silver dessert tray, something metallic caught the chandelier light. Maya moved before fear could stop her. She grabbed Luca's wrist and pulled him backward just as the tray crashed onto the table. A hidden blade struck the exact spot where Luca's hand had been. The ballroom erupted in screams, but Luca only stared at Maya. She had seen the danger before every trained guard in the room, and as his men seized the fake server, Luca noticed a bruise circling Maya's wrist, shaped like someone's fingers. His expression turned colder than the winter streets outside. "Who did that to you?" he asked. Maya covered the bruise with her sleeve. "It doesn't matter." Luca stepped closer, lowering his voice only for her. "It matters to me." Before she could answer, the captured attacker laughed from across the room. "Ask her who she really is, Moretti. You brought the enemy straight to your table." The attacker's accusation turned every face toward Maya. For one terrible second, the ballroom became exactly what she had feared, a room full of people waiting for proof that she did not belong. Luca did not step away from her. He moved closer. "Take him downstairs," he ordered. His security team pulled the attacker toward the exit, but the man twisted around and shouted, "Check her purse! Ask her about Adrian Vale." Maya's breath caught. Luca heard it. "You know that name," he said. The warmth had left his voice, replaced by the controlled calm that made armed men obey him. Maya looked at the guests, at Vanessa's satisfied expression, and finally at Luca. "Adrian was my employer. Was, until 3 weeks ago. One of Luca's guards picked up Maya's purse from beneath her chair and waited for permission. Luca never took his eyes off her. No one searches her belongings without her consent." It was a small sentence, but Maya felt it like a shield. She swallowed and nodded. "Search it." The guard opened the purse carefully. Inside were her wallet, bakery keys, a lipstick, and a sealed black envelope Maya had never seen before. The Moretti crest was stamped across the front. Whispers rushed through the ballroom. Luca took the envelope and broke the seal. Inside was a photograph of him leaving a private warehouse, along with a handwritten list of security routes known only to his inner circle. Vanessa covered her mouth. Derek pushed his chair away from Maya. "She set him up," he said. Maya stared at the evidence. "That isn't mine." "Of course it isn't," Vanessa replied. "Strange things always happen around you, don't they?" Luca's gaze shifted to the bruise on Maya's wrist. "Did Adrian Vale give you that?" Maya's silence answered him. Luca folded the photograph once. "Everyone leaves except Maya." Vanessa rose in outrage. "This is my engagement party." Luca looked at the hotel manager. "The ballroom is now closed." The manager nodded immediately. Within minutes, the guests were escorted out under the watch of Moretti security. Vanessa passed Maya with a poisonous whisper. "You finally found a man, and you'll destroy him before midnight." Luca heard her. "Use her name with respect," he said. Vanessa hurried away without answering. When the doors shut, Maya stood beneath the chandeliers, surrounded by broken plates and spilled caramel. She looked smaller somehow, not because of her body, but because shame had taught her to take up less space whenever trouble arrived. Luca removed his jacket and placed it around her shoulders. "Tell me everything." Maya held the lapels closed with trembling fingers. "Adrian Vale owns the bakery where I work. 2 months ago, I found financial records in the office copier, payments to hotel employees, private drivers, and security companies. I thought he was hiding income, so I saved copies in case he blamed the staff." Luca's expression sharpened. "Where are they?" "In a safety deposit box." "Why did he fire you?" "He discovered I had seen them. He offered me $10,000 to forget everything. I refused." She pulled her sleeve farther over the bruise. "He grabbed me when I tried to leave." Luca's jaw tightened. "And tonight?" "He sent me a message saying he would erase my rent debt if I attended this party and kept quiet. I thought it was another threat." "You are in debt to him?" "The apartment above the bakery belongs to his company. If I lose the job, I lose my home." Luca studied her, seeing the truth others had missed. She had not entered his world to betray him. She had been trapped inside its edges without knowing it. His phone rang. His security chief, Marcus Reed, spoke from the hotel basement. "The attacker is carrying a Vale family token. He says the envelope was planted after the woman entered the lobby." Luca's eyes moved toward the surveillance cameras. Who had access to her purse? "We are checking." Maya suddenly remembered the broad-shouldered man at the nearby table, the one who had frozen when he saw Luca. "There was a man watching us before dinner," she said. "Black tie, scar near his left ear. He left when the guards arrived." Marcus went silent. "That sounds like Daniel Cross." Luca's face changed. Daniel was not a rival. He was Luca's most trusted operations chief, the man who had served beside him for 11 years. The betrayal was not outside the Moretti family. It was standing at Luca's right hand. A loud crack echoed from the corridor, followed by the alarmed voices of security. The ballroom lights went out. In the darkness, Luca caught Maya around the waist and pulled her behind a marble column as glass shattered across the floor. He shielded her with his body while emergency lights flickered red along the walls. "They are not after me," Maya whispered, finally understanding. "They planted the envelope so you would think I was the traitor." Luca looked toward the service entrance, where a shadow moved behind the doors. "No," he said. "They planted it because you have the records that can expose them." His hand found hers in the darkness. "Where is the safety deposit box?" Before Maya could answer, her phone lit up with a photograph. It showed her apartment door hanging open and her younger brother Ethan tied to a kitchen chair. Beneath the image was one message: "Bring Moretti to the bakery by midnight, or your brother disappears." Luca read the message once, then looked at the clock above the ballroom doors. 11:12, 48 minutes until midnight. "We are not taking you to the bakery," he said. Maya pulled away from the marble column, his jacket still wrapped around her shoulders. "My brother is there." "That is exactly why they expect you to panic." "Ethan is 19, Luca. He has asthma, and his inhaler is probably in his backpack." Her voice cracked, but she did not collapse. She held out her phone. "You can call me reckless later. Right now, help me get him back." Luca studied her face beneath the red emergency lights. Most people begged him to make decisions for them. Maya was asking him to stand beside her while she made one herself. He turned to Marcus. "Lock down every street around Vale's bakery. No visible vehicles. I want the roof, rear alley and subway entrance covered." Marcus hesitated. "Daniel knows our procedures." "Then change them." Luca looked at Maya. "Where is the safety deposit box?" She swallowed. "It is not at a bank." The lights flickered back on as she crossed to the overturned dessert table. From beneath the broken tray, she picked up the silver cake server and pressed her thumb against the decorative handle. A narrow compartment opened, revealing a tiny brass key. Luca stared at it. "You carried that all evening?" "Adrian searched my apartment twice. I needed somewhere no one would consider valuable." "Why hide it in the hotel?" "Because this cake server belongs to my mother." Maya turned the key between her fingers. "She worked in this ballroom 20 years ago." Luca's expression went still. Maya continued before fear stopped her. "The box is inside the old service elevator behind the kitchen. My mother told me there was a maintenance compartment no one used. After she died, I kept her letters there." Luca glanced toward the kitchen doors. "And the records?" "I hid them with the letters." Marcus received an alert and raised his phone. "The old elevator was accessed tonight at 10:46. Maya's face drained of colour. Luca caught her hand before the key slipped from her fingers. "Who knew?" he asked. "Only me." Then she remembered something and looked toward the ballroom stage. "No. Vanessa knew my mother kept things in the hotel. She found one of her letters when we were teenagers." Luca's eyes narrowed. "Your cousin planted the envelope?" "I do not know. But she brought you here." The truth landed hard. Vanessa had insisted Maya attend, mocked her imaginary boyfriend loudly enough for the lobby to hear, and left her alone near the exact table where Daniel Cross had been watching. The humiliation had not been random. It had placed Maya where Luca would see her. Before either could speak, the ballroom speakers crackled. Adrian Vale's voice filled the room. "Very good, Maya. You finally understood the invitation." The security team drew their weapons, but Luca lifted one hand, ordering restraint. "Show Ethan," Maya demanded. A screen above the stage turned on. Ethan appeared in the bakery kitchen, breathing fast but conscious. Behind him stood Vanessa, still wearing her silver engagement gown. She held his inhaler in one hand and a phone in the other. Maya's knees nearly gave way. Luca steadied her by the elbow. "Why?" Maya whispered. Vanessa smiled at the camera. "Because your mother was never just a hotel employee. She kept financial records for Luca's father." Luca's gaze snapped to Maya. Vanessa continued. "Before she died, she stole evidence proving that Adrian Vale and someone inside the Moretti family arranged the warehouse attack that killed Luca's older brother." The room seemed to contract around them. Luca had spent 12 years believing the attack came from a rival family. He had built his entire empire around that grief. "The records were not about taxes," Maya said slowly. "They were about your brother." Luca's face remained controlled, but his hand tightened around hers. Vanessa leaned toward the camera. Bring Luca and the key to the bakery, Maya. Come alone, and Ethan breathes. Bring his men, and the building burns before midnight. The screen went black. Maya turned toward Luca. You should stay here. No. They want you, not me. They want what your mother protected. He stepped closer, lowering his voice until the armed men around them disappeared from her awareness. And I will not trade your brother's life for my revenge. Tears gathered in Maya's eyes. Everyone near me gets hurt. Luca lifted one hand and wiped a tear from her cheek with his thumb. You did not cause this. You barely know me. I know you saw danger when trained men missed it. I know you refused money when you needed it. I know you walked into a room that mocked you and still protected a stranger. His gaze held hers. That is enough for me to trust. For the first time, Maya did not look away. Marcus stepped forward. Boss, there is another problem. We traced Vanessa's broadcast. The bakery? Luca asked. No, the signal is coming from inside this hotel. A soft mechanical groan sounded behind the kitchen wall. The old service elevator began to rise. Maya looked at the brass key in her hand as the floor indicator moved from basement level 1 to the ballroom. When the doors opened, Daniel Cross stood inside holding Maya's mother's metal box. Beside him was Ethan, free of the ropes, but wearing a device with a blinking red light across his chest. Daniel smiled at Luca. Midnight came early. The red light on Ethan's chest blinked faster as Daniel stepped out of the elevator, Maya's mother's metal box tucked beneath his arm. Nobody moves, he said. This device responds to my heartbeat. If mine stops, so does his. Luca's men froze around the ballroom. Ethan's face was pale, his breathing shallow, but Maya saw his inhaler protruding from Daniel's coat pocket. She took one step forward. Luca caught her wrist gently. Maya, he needs that inhaler. Daniel smiled. Then perhaps his sister should earn it. The ballroom clock read 11:41. 19 minutes remained before the deal Adrian Vale planned to complete at midnight, a deal built on stolen records, dead witnesses, and Luca's grief. Open the box, Daniel ordered. Maya held up the brass key. Give Ethan his inhaler first. You are not negotiating. Neither are you. Her voice shook, but she kept her chin high. Without this key, that box stays closed. Without the records, Adrian cannot prove control of the Moretti accounts. And without my cooperation, you are just a traitor standing in a ballroom surrounded by men who hate you. Luca looked at her with something deeper than surprise. Daniel's smile vanished. You think he will protect you after he learns what your mother did? My mother protected the truth. Your mother helped destroy his family. Then let him hear it from the records, not from you. Daniel pulled Ethan closer and pressed 2 fingers against the blinking device. Luca shifted in front of Maya, shielding her with his body. Touch either of them again, he said, and every name connected to you disappears from this city. Daniel laughed. There is the famous Moretti threat, but tonight you cannot solve this with fear. No, Luca replied. Tonight I solve it with a choice. He removed the signet ring bearing the Moretti crest and placed it on the table. Marcus stared at him. Boss, what are you doing? Luca kept his eyes on Daniel. Adrian wants my authority to complete his transfer. He can have it in exchange for Ethan. Maya stepped beside him. You cannot surrender your empire. An empire can be rebuilt. Luca looked at her. Your brother cannot. For years, Maya had believed powerful men only protected what belonged to them. Luca was prepared to lose everything for a woman he had met less than 2 hours ago and a frightened boy he had never spoken to. Daniel reached for the ring, but Maya suddenly threw the brass key across the ballroom. It struck the marble floor and slid beneath the stage. Every head turned. Maya moved at once. She grabbed Daniel's coat, tore the inhaler free, and shoved it toward Ethan. Daniel seized her shoulder, but Luca crossed the distance in a heartbeat and drove him against the elevator wall. The metal box crashed open on the floor. Letters, photographs, and financial ledgers spilled across the tiles. Marcus pulled Ethan away while Maya placed the inhaler between her brother's lips. Breathe slowly, she whispered. I'm right here. Daniel struggled against Luca, but the device on Ethan's chest began flashing rapidly. The trigger, Marcus warned. We have less than 60 seconds. Maya examined the wires. Years of repairing bakery equipment had taught her not to fear machinery just because it looked complicated. She saw one wire leading nowhere, another attached to a cheap timer and a pressure sensor fastened beneath the clasp. "It is not linked to his heartbeat," she said. Daniel lied. "Can you remove it?" Luca asked. "Not safely, but I can stop the timer." Her hands trembled as she lifted the edge of the device. "I need something thin and metal." Luca handed her the Moretti ring. Maya slid its narrow crest beneath the battery contact. The timer froze at 7 seconds. Ethan collapsed against Marcus, gasping but alive. Across the ballroom, Daniel went still. Luca's voice dropped. "You threatened her family with a fake bomb." "It was never supposed to go this far," Daniel muttered. "Adrian promised no one would be hurt." A slow clap sounded from the stage. Vanessa emerged from behind the curtain, her silver gown torn at the hem, holding a small pistol toward Maya. "Daniel always was sentimental," she said. "That is why Adrian chose me to finish this." She kicked one of the ledgers toward Luca. "Your brother discovered the veil payments 12 years ago. Maya's mother tried to warn him, but your own uncle sold his location. Adrian ordered the attack, and Daniel erased the trail." Daniel stared at her. "You said Veil would protect us." "Veil protects useful people." Vanessa aimed at Maya's chest, and she stopped being useful when she opened that box. Luca stepped in front of Maya, but Maya moved beside him instead of hiding behind him. She held up a photograph that had fallen from her mother's letters. It showed Vanessa meeting Adrian outside the bakery 3 weeks earlier. "The hotel cameras are still recording," Maya said. "Your confession is already evidence." Vanessa's face twisted. "You always thought kindness made you special." "No," Maya answered. "It kept me from becoming you." Sirens rose outside as Marcus transmitted the live footage to federal investigators Luca had secretly contacted before entering the ballroom. Vanessa's finger tightened on the trigger. Luca reached for Maya, but a gunshot cracked through the golden room. He staggered backward, and blood spread across his white shirt as Maya caught him in her arms. Vanessa smiled until another voice came through the ballroom speakers. Adrian Vale had joined the live feed, and his next sentence silenced everyone. "Do not kill Maya Bennett," he ordered. "She is the only living heir to the Vale Empire." For one suspended second, no one moved. Then Maya pressed both hands against Luca's shoulder, where the bullet had torn through muscle but missed his heart. "Stay with me," she whispered. Luca's face had gone pale, yet his eyes remained fixed on Vanessa. "Marcus," he said through clenched teeth, "end this." Marcus and 2 guards moved at once. Vanessa tried to turn the pistol toward Maya, but Daniel knocked her arm aside and the shot struck the ceiling. Marcus disarmed her and forced her to the floor as federal agents rushed through the ballroom doors. Luca sagged against Maya, and she lowered him carefully beside the overturned table. "You stepped in front of me," she said, fighting tears. "I told you," he murmured, "not while you are with me." Adrian Vale's voice still echoed through the speakers. "Maya is my brother's daughter. Her mother hid the truth after he died. Everything bearing the Vale name belongs to her." Maya stared at the ledgers scattered across the marble. Her mother's final letter lay open among them. With trembling fingers, Maya unfolded it and read the first line aloud. "My dearest Maya, blood may give you a name, but your choices will decide who you become." Vanessa laughed bitterly from the floor. "You hear that? She owns the bakery, the apartments, the accounts, all of it. She was never poor. She was simply too ignorant to know what belonged to her." Maya looked at the woman who had mocked her for years, then at Ethan breathing safely beside Marcus. "No," Maya said. "I was never poor in the ways that mattered." Federal agents cut Adrian's connection and confirmed that his location had been traced to a private airfield outside Chicago. His attempt to escape failed before midnight. Daniel surrendered the remaining evidence and admitted that Adrian had used debt, threats, and guilt to control him. It did not erase his betrayal, but his testimony exposed every person involved in the attack that killed Luca's brother. Vanessa was arrested for kidnapping, conspiracy, and attempted murder. As paramedics entered the ballroom, Luca refused to release Maya's hand. "Go with Ethan," he said. "I will be fine." That is what stubborn men say before making nurses angry. A faint smile touched his mouth. "So this is still a fake relationship?" Maya leaned closer, her tears falling freely now. "Ask me again when you are not bleeding on a ballroom floor." 3 weeks later, Morning sunlight filled Luca's private recovery room overlooking Lake Michigan. He stood near the window with his arm in a sling, still powerful enough to make executives nervous, but no longer hiding every wound behind silence. Maya entered carrying 2 slices of salted caramel cheesecake from the bakery she now legally owned. She had used part of the recovered Vale money to protect the employees, repair the apartments, and create a fund for workers escaping abusive employers. She had not changed her body, her style, or herself to fit anyone's expectations. She simply stopped apologizing for taking up space. Luca watched her set the plates down. "Extra caramel?" he asked. "You remembered. I remember everything about you." He reached into his jacket and placed $200 on the table. Maya raised an eyebrow. "What is that?" "A refund. The service was misleading. You were an excellent fake boyfriend." "That is the problem." Luca stepped closer, leaving enough distance for her to choose. "I do not want another performance, Maya. No contracts, no debts, no pretending. I want breakfast when you burn the toast, arguments when I become controlling, quiet nights when neither of us knows what to say, and every room where someone once made you feel invisible." Her eyes filled again. Luca took her hand gently. "You never needed to become smaller to be loved. The world around you was simply too small to recognize you." Maya looked at the feared Mafia Boss who had silenced a ballroom for her, risked an empire for her brother, and trusted her courage before knowing her bloodline. "And you never needed more power," she said. "You needed someone who was not afraid of the man beneath it." 6 months later, the same Chicago ballroom glowed with warm golden light. There were no cruel whispers this time. Ethan stood proudly beside Maya, while bakery employees, trusted friends, and Luca's remaining family filled the room. Luca waited beneath the chandeliers in a black suit, his gaze softening only when Maya entered. She wore a deep blue gown that celebrated every curve she had once been taught to hide. He met her halfway rather than making her walk alone. In front of everyone, he took her hand and asked whether she would choose him without payment, pressure, or fear. Maya smiled. "I already did." Their story began with $200 and a lie, but it ended with truth, dignity, and a love neither of them had believed they deserved. So what would you have done if the stranger you hired to protect your pride turned out to be the one person powerful enough to protect your heart? Share your answer in the comments. And subscribe to the channel for more emotional Mafia Boss stories where the overlooked are finally seen, chosen, and loved.